The late 1960s, California. A time when the Golden State was a beacon of hope and change. The sun-drenched beaches, the bustling cities, and the promise of a new era. California was the epicenter of the counterculture movement, where young people flocked to embrace peace, love, and freedom. The streets were alive with the sounds of music, the scent of incense, and the vibrant colors of tie-dye. It was a time of dreams and possibilities where anything seemed possible. A time of peace and love, shattered. The idyllic vision of California was about to be marred by a series of events that would leave an indelible mark on its history. The summer of love turned into a season of fear. The peace rallies and love-ins were overshadowed by a dark presence that lurked in the shadows. The Zodiac killer emerged, casting a long and terrifying shadow over the Bay Area. His reign of terror began in the late 1960s, and the impact of his actions would be felt for decades to come. A killer stalked the night. His name, the Zodiac, his motive, a mystery, his calling card, terror. The Zodiac killer was unlike any other criminal the world had seen. He was methodical, calculating, and seemingly unstoppable. He taunted the police with cryptic letters and ciphers, daring them to catch him. His victims were chosen at random, adding to the sense of fear and unpredictability. The Zodiac's ability to evade capture only heightened the public's anxiety. He was a phantom, a ghost that haunted the streets of the Bay Area. The Zodiac killer became a nightmare for the Bay Area. The once vibrant and lively streets of San Francisco and its surrounding areas were now cloaked in fear. The media frenzy that followed each of his attacks only served to amplify the terror. Headlines screamed of his latest atrocities, and the public was gripped by a collective paranoia. The Zodiac's letters to the press were filled with chilling details and threats, making it clear that he reveled in the fear he was creating. The Bay Area was under siege, and no one felt safe. He toyed with the police. He threatened the public. The Zodiac killer's game of cat and mouse with law enforcement was unprecedented. He sent letters to newspapers, demanding they be published or he would kill again. These letters contained ciphers that he claimed would reveal his identity if solved. Despite the best efforts of cryptographers and amateur sleuths, many of these ciphers remain unsolved to this day. The Zodiac's ability to stay one step ahead of the police was both infuriating and terrifying. He seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. He craved attention, and he got it. His crimes, brutal. His methods, cold. Fear gripped the region. The Zodiac killer's attacks were marked by their brutality and randomness. He targeted young couples in secluded areas, striking when they were most vulnerable. His methods were cold and calculated, leaving little evidence behind. The fear he instilled in the public was palpable. People changed their routines, avoided going out at night, and looked over their shoulders constantly. The Zodiac had succeeded in creating an atmosphere of dread and uncertainty. People were afraid to go out at night. The unknown was terrifying. Who was this Zodiac? Would he strike again? The questions were endless, and the answers were elusive. The Zodiac killer's identity remained a mystery, and the lack of closure only deepened the public's fear. The police were inundated with tips and leads, but none led to the capture of the elusive killer. The sense of helplessness was overwhelming. The Zodiac seemed to be playing a game, and the people of the Bay Area were his unwitting pawns. The Zodiac killer's story is one of mystery, intrigue, and fear. His case has become one of the most infamous unsolved mysteries in American history. Over the years, countless theories and suspects have emerged, but none have been definitively proven to be the Zodiac. The case has spawned books, movies, and documentaries, each offering their own take on the enigma. The fascination with the Zodiac killer endures as people continue to search for answers and closure. The mystery of his identity and motives remains as compelling today as it was over 50 years ago. It's a tale that continues to fascinate and frighten even today. The Zodiac killer's legacy is one of fear and intrigue. True crime enthusiasts and amateur detectives still pore over the details of the case, hoping to uncover the truth. The Zodiac's ciphers and letters are analyzed and reanalyzed, each new theory bringing a glimmer of hope that the mystery might finally be solved. The story of the Zodiac killer is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of society. It is a tale that will continue to captivate and terrify for generations to come. December 20th, 1968. The air was crisp, and the streets were eerily quiet. The world seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. It was the kind of night where the silence felt heavy, almost tangible. as if it were a prelude to an impending storm. The clock ticked closer to midnight, marking the passage of time in a world that seemed momentarily frozen. A young couple, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, parked on a lover's lane. They were high school sweethearts, full of dreams and hopes for the future. The night was supposed to be a romantic escape, a brief respite from the pressures of their teenage lives. They laughed and talked, oblivious to the danger lurking in the shadows. Their car, a symbol of youthful freedom, now stood as a silent witness to the events that would soon unfold. It was a cold night, the perfect setting for a tragedy. The mist hung low, shrouding the road in an ethereal veil. The breath of anyone brave enough to venture outside would be visible, a ghostly reminder of the chill in the air. The lover's lane, usually a place of whispered secrets and stolen kisses, now felt ominous and foreboding. The darkness seemed to stretch endlessly, swallowing any light that dared to pierce it. They never knew what hit them. 5 shots rang out, shattering the stillness of the night. The sound echoed through the empty streets, a violent interruption to the quiet. David was killed instantly, his life snuffed out in a heartbeat. The car, once a haven of safety and love, now became a scene of horror. The suddenness of the attack left no room for comprehension or escape. Betty Lou tried to run but was gunned down. Her fear propelled her forward, but the bullets were faster. She fell to the ground, her dreams and future slipping away with each passing second. The night that was supposed to be filled with love and laughter was now drenched in blood and terror. Her final moments were a desperate attempt to escape the fate that had already claimed David. The killer vanished into the night. Like a phantom, he melted into the darkness, leaving no trace behind. The road, now empty and silent once more, bore no witness to the horror that had just occurred. The shadowy figure disappeared, becoming one with the night, as if he had never been there at all. The sense of dread lingered, a haunting reminder of the unseen dangers that lurked in the shadows. The police were baffled. There were few clues. The scene was chaotic, yet eerily clean of any substantial evidence. Detectives combed through the area, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, but their efforts seemed in vain. The questions outnumbered the answers, and the sense of frustration grew. How could someone commit such a heinous act and leave so little behind? The mystery deepened with every passing moment. The killer was a ghost. He moved with an almost supernatural stealth, leaving no footprints, no fingerprints, nothing that could lead back to him. The foggy streets seemed to swallow him whole, making him a part of the night itself. The silhouette that had once been a figure of terror was now just a memory, a haunting presence that would continue to elude capture. The fear of the unknown gripped the community, as they realized they were dealing with a predator unlike any other. Little did they know, this was just the beginning. The calendar pages flipped, marking the passage of time, but the fear remained. Seasons changed, but the shadow of the killer loomed large over the city. The once vibrant streets now felt ominous, as if the very air was thick with dread. The community, once tight-knit and trusting, now looked over their shoulders, wary of the unseen threat that lurked among them. The Zodiac's reign of terror had begun. The symbol, now infamous, became a mark of fear and death. Newspaper headlines screamed of the latest atrocities, each more horrifying than the last. The map with marked locations told a story of a predator who was always one step ahead, always just out of reach. The Zodiac killer was not just a murderer, he was a master of psychological warfare, instilling fear with every move he made. It would leave a trail of blood and unanswered questions. Each crime scene was a puzzle, each clue a piece that never quite fit. The bloody handprint on the wall, the cryptic messages, all served to deepen the mystery. Detectives, their desks overflowing with files, worked tirelessly, but the answers remained elusive. The frustration was palpable, as the sense of urgency grew with each passing day. The trail of blood was not just physical, it was a psychological scar on the community. The hunt was on, but would they catch him? The flashing lights of police cars became a common sight, a beacon of hope in the dark. Detectives huddled in deep discussion, their faces etched with determination. The rearview mirror reflected not just a face, but a resolve to bring the killer to justice. The hunt was relentless, but the question remained, could they catch a ghost? The community held its breath, waiting for the day when the nightmare would finally end.